era. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday said that it is time for tech solutions that are designed in India but deployed for the world, and the country is uniquely positioned to leap ahead in the information era. Addressing the Bengaluru Tech Summit 2020 virtually, Prime Minister Modi said India is at a sweet spot and it is time for tech solutions that are designed in India but deployed for the world. Stating that the government's policy decisions are always aimed at liberalizing the tech and innovations industry, Prime Minister Modi said recently the compliance burden on the IT industry has been eased in various ways besides trying to engage with stakeholders in the tech industry and chart out future policy framework for India. The Prime Minister also noted that today Digital India has become a way of life, particularly for the poor, marginalized and for those in government. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze how technology can learn and grow. Joining me on the program today are Abhishek Singh, CEO MyGov and National E-Governance Division, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India; Sanjay Naik, Chairman, Science and Technology Committee, FICCI and CEO, Tejas Networks; and Prawal Singh, Vice President, Marketing, Zoho Corp. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Sanjay, let me begin the program with you first. Let's first try and understand and analyze what is the state of the tech and design sector in the country.
Thank you, Frank. It was very heartening to see our Prime Minister talk about how technology and innovation is really helped leapfrog the country. In fact, the last 5 years, if you see, India has really moved from a traditional economy to a digital economy. And that whole process and journey, I would say, in the last 7-8 months, during COVID has actually got accelerated. So online learning, telemedicine, remote working, all these things which we used to think of, are good applications of future actually have become live applications that we have done. Second trend I wanted to highlight, which is very exciting, and I live in Bangalore, so I had the pleasure of looking at what our Prime Minister said yesterday, is the fact that India for the last 30 years has been known around the world as a world's top destination for IT outsourcing. I'm very proud and happy to say that a parallel ecosystem silently and very powerfully has emerged in the country over the last 5 years, where India is now starting to become a product nation. We are designing and developing products and solutions in India, which are of course very relevant for India, which are world-class, but are also relevant for the world. And just to give you a quick example of what I'm saying, for example, Tejas Networks, one of the companies that I lead in the telecommunication equipment sector, we are now exporting our telecom equipment to 75 countries around the world. And 70% of BharatNet, which was built in India, was built on the equipment that we supplied. So here's an example that we use the Indian market, the size of the Indian market, get success in India, and then get success in 75 countries around the world. So I think it's a very exciting time to be here. The combination of a very strong network in the form of 4G broadband network in the cities, the BharatNet in the countryside, combination of Aadhaar, UPI as the foundational software, which is the platform which is going to give us all the services and all the apps on the top. The troika of all these three things is something that India can export to 100 countries around the world who are trying to take a traditional economy, go into digital economy. So I think Prime Minister's call for made in India, design in India, manufactured and made in India for the world is absolutely a perfect clarion call in current times.
Absolutely. All right. So, Prawal, let me bring you in now. How much of an impact has the pandemic had really as far as the tech sector is concerned? And how do we, get past this particular roadblock?
Thanks, Frank. The two things that we've seen develop over the course of 6 months. First was when the pandemic hit, people started to work remotely. Now that meant use of tools and technology to be able to enable teams to work remotely, right? SOPs were drafted, all of that happened. And in that, we saw a huge sort of surge towards using tools like these, the ones that we're using today to connect. So we saw a huge surge in demand from our products like Zoho Meeting and Zoho Assist and some of the other tools. Now that, between then and now, a lot has changed. People were trying to adapt to work remotely. Now people have gotten used to working remotely, right? Now, as we see offices starting to open, as things supposedly get back to normal, that's what we hope, seeing a good hybrid of people wanting to work from the office a few days a week to sort of get to have some real face time with their colleagues. But we're also seeing a lot of people are now having a preference to be able to work remotely from wherever they are, closer to their family, friends, all of that. From a business standpoint, we actually expected things to be much worse than they were for us, honestly, right? So we saw initially users sort of canceling their subscription or downgrading their subscription, but over a course of time, things started to pick up. And I think we've managed to stay afloat really well. From a product standpoint, right, this led to something that we did not assume. Teams to be able to work and ship products while working remotely, including people who had never worked before in the company. So that was a positive. So productivity was not at all affected, is what I would say. That's what we have seen in the company. And from an industry perspective, I think what COVID did to us was a kind of a leapfrog that would have probably taken years in terms of productivity, use of tools, collaboration, digital-led evolution is what I would call it. We saw all of that happen in 6 months. And I think we as a country together managed to do it really well.
Absolutely. All right. So, Abhishek Singh, how do we fare as compared to other countries when we talk about design, tech solutions and IT sector as a whole? And what are our strengths and what do we need to focus on?
See, as Sanjay and Praval has already said, that our key strength so far has been a strong software services nation. And we have our top IT companies who have been providing software services to the world for a long time. Now, the change that has happened lately is that we are finding our mojo in the product space. How do we go from designing, not only providing services, but also designing products that can be used by companies world over, whether it's in the telecom space, whether in the software development space. And we have two of the examples here. Sanjay spoke about Tejas and Praval represents Zoho, who have some of the best solutions that are there. Only product difference has been that India so far has not been known as a strong product company, strong product producing companies. But over a period of time, especially during the pandemic, we found that whenever we launched a challenge on an innovation challenge, startups to come up with solutions that can be scaled up for solving societal problems across the world. We found our IT companies coming up with those solutions, and many of the solutions which have been chosen in these challenge rounds have the potential to become world beaters. And we have a strong personnel ecosystem, like our engineering colleges, our IIT networks have been providing tech manpower for the world. And not only as CEOs of the top product companies, software product companies of the world, but also at the lower ranks and at the people who are actually designing and developing products. So if the necessary incentives are given to these entrepreneurs and these trained personnel to design such products in India, there is no reason our products will not be able to capture the world market. So the government is focusing on that. We have COVID did result in several innovations coming up. Recently, the work from home regulations were relaxed. So companies can, the labor code was relaxed, which has led to companies being able to immediately develop products in an agile manner. And once that is done and the necessary investments come in, because so far our challenge has been that necessary investments in startups who are investing in product has not been there. And somehow we have been relying more on the Googles and the Microsofts of the world and thinking that those products are the best and not trying out our own office solutions by Zoho or similar such products by Indian companies. So when that change is happening to using products developed by Indian companies, I am sure, and once the government shows the result, the industry and everyone else follows when the trust is shown there. The GEM portal has been designed, which is showcasing such products. So I have a strong belief that in the days to come, we will be seeing many more Indian companies, many more Indian software products, which will be able to capture not only the market in India, but across the world.
All right. So Sanjay Nayak, as we are talking about, scaling up, as we are talking about moving up a few notches or a few levels, what are some of the challenges that the industry faces and some of the challenges that you foresee going forward?
So let me tell you a couple of things. One which Abhishek himself said, I think as a branding of our country, we are well regarded in the world as a top-notch destination for outsourcing and IT services. I think as a country, we need to brand like Korea is known today or Japan is known in terms of technology products, that India also has equivalent talent. And let me give you one piece of statistics which is mind-blowing. More than 50% of the R&D engineers in the world, ex-China, in telecom product development of the world, actually work from India. More than 50% of the chips designed in the world, ex-China, in terms of R&D engineers are working from India. So I think as a country, we need to have the confidence, we need to have the trust that we have enough talent in the country. It just needs to be channelized. So once we do the external branding, the internal excitement of people leaving larger companies and doing their own companies, building the products will start to happen. So that's one point I wanted to highlight in terms of what's missing, in terms of scaling. The second point and the third point I want to highlight is something which the government is already doing, but I think it can be fine-tuned to get much significantly better results. For example, there is like Abhishek mentioned, there's a Make in India policy, preference to Make in India policy in the GEM portal. I think this is a fantastic policy because unlike many other countries like Israel, which has a very small domestic market, India has a massive domestic market. So we got to use or leverage our domestic market demand for technology products, build economies of scale in India, and then export to the world. Because India, by the way, let me tell you, at least in telecom for sure, Indian market is the toughest market to win business in the world in telecom. You have to have the latest technology, highest quality, and the lowest price for any of the private operators or even government operators to select you. So I think if a company can sell in India, they can sell and make a lot of money anywhere in the world. So I think that's the second part, that the PMA policy has to be strengthened. If there are small lacunas where restrictive tender conditions and all those things have to be removed, that should be done. So that's the second part. The third thing, which is a very recent development, which allows scaling of size, is the PLI policy, the performance linked incentive, which has been in a very, very forward-looking policy for telecom sector and electronic sector, which has come. Just to give you a sense of what that policy can accomplish, we are going to be importing $400 billion worth of electronic products in the next couple of years. Telecom products alone, just for 5G, will be more than $100 billion. Now, all the capabilities exist in the country. Manufacturing capabilities are there, design capabilities are there, R&D talent, as I mentioned, is there, from chip level fabless to the system level. So what we got to do is